Okay, we're recording now. I'm here with Grandpa Syd.
Yes.
And yes, Grandpa, why don't we talk about various things?
Buttons. Nothing and sundry.
Nothing and sundry. Why don't we talk about?
How about the football game this afternoon?
Well, we could talk about that, or why don't we talk about you a bit? So why don't we do that? Why don't we talk about you?
We want to stop with me and say, or start with me?
Why don't we start with you? Why don't you?
Anything particularly you want to talk about?
Sure. Why don't you tell me about when your family first came over to Canada? From Lithuania, your parents and the family.
Well, they come in, not all together really. They come in parts, sort of, in segments or parts. My dad, he came over roughly about just at the turn of the century. See, he'd been in the Russian army, and he spent about something like 8.5 years there. And mind you, he had a very good, funny trick, not a trick exactly, a way of making money on the side. See, he was really a sergeant, sort of in charge of supplies.
Right.
And the Russians are heavy cigarette smokers. So Pop used to import tobaccos there through the facilities of the army, and he had a little machine, about a 50-cent machine, and you fill it with tobacco, and you use a little plunger, and it fills a little empty little tube there with tobacco. And he was selling them to his friends in the army there.
I guess his comrades.
His comrades. I don't know what the Russians call their boys comrades or...
Oh yeah, they did when they were communists. I don't know what they do now.
Yeah. In any case, he made a lot of some money on the side there, which he sent to his sister, Mrs. Shulman. She was living near on Lake Sickle, up in a place called, I think it was... it'll come to me and say that maybe it was Jackson's Point somewhere.
Right.
And he was selling these cigarettes, made him a fair amount of money.
So he was able to. He sent the money to her. She saved the money.
So she saved the money for all the family, and she was the one that arranged the tickets. See, Russians didn't see you couldn't buy a ticket from the Russians. You had to buy it through an agent. And he sent the money to the agent in Toronto. He cashed his money in for steamship tickets, as it were.
So actually, his sister was the first one who was in Canada.
Mrs. Shulman.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. So I guess she had married Mr. Shulman in Lithuania, and they came over.
No. I think they were married. Well, let's see. I wasn't sure where they were married. But they lived in at the. It was called Jackson's Point, I think. To be on the safe side, it was called Jackson's Point. And that's on Lake Simcoe. And they had a general store there, where they sold everything you wanted to buy, foods and harness and odds and ends here and there. And they established a business there, which they carried on for a few years, and they moved to Toronto, to Queen Street, Toronto, finally. And the exact number was 755 Queen Street, west, on the south side.
So this is where the Shulmans lived at first.
That's yeah. And there's a big church beside them. And the other side of the church was another one of our family lived there. They were the Wolfe's Uncle Harry. They were in the furniture business. So the Shulmans were on one side of the church, and the Wolfes on the other side there. Where they sold furniture.
So then what happened is that your father was sending the money over to Mrs. Shulman.
He let me see where he's now. Well, he came to Toronto, and he opened a little shop there at the corner, just where the new City Hall is located right now. Now, he started a little grocery business, and it sort of flourished a bit where he was staying there.
Yeah.
And they finally moved to some Queen Street, West Toronto, near Spadina. And from there he moved just a little bit further west to Euclid Avenue, just a little north of Queen Street. And that's where he established his grocery store, and where he spent most years of his life. They were in Toronto.
Was he married in Lithuania, or did he get married in Toronto?
Yes, no, he didn't. I must tell you, but his marriage was big romantic, very romantic. But I can take your time to tell you the story.
Sure.
Now, you see, when he came out of the army, there he came to see his mother. They were living there. They were living in a little place called God, that leaves me. In any case, I was in Lithuania.
Yeah.
And his mother was living there. And he went to look at the back where they didn't use coal, they used wood, they sawed wood all the time, except for the fuel. Well, he went back home and there he asked him, Mom, where's the wood? She says, we have none, but your brothers weren't around and I was all alone, and Grandpa was too old to go to sawing wood, so I waited till you got home. Now, when I said, Mom, can I get you some wood somewhere? She says, no, she says, you better go. There's a man up in a little place called,
Do you think Grandma might know some of these names?
You know that it was a little town there.
Because I think Grandma's coming. Grandma's coming, she can help.
Oh, you're telling me a story by your pictures?
But they've that town by the side where they were both from stayed in. No, you wouldn't know it, I don't think so.
No, this is in Lithuania.
Lithuania. And the people didn't call it Lithuania as it were Lithuania. They call it Lith. They call it Lit. Oh, I'm sorry. It was Lit they called it. Short for Lithuania.
Right.
Well, when he came there, there was a man to go buy some new stuff they use out there. The rich people have. This is a town where a lot of rich people were living. And they use a black stuff called coal.
Right.
So don't buy any lumber. Buy this black stuff. And he went to we rapped on the door, and out come one of the most beautiful girls he'd ever seen in his lifetime. See, most of the Russian girls were sort of darkish, and didn't care too much about their dress. But this woman, this girl, she was the most prettiest thing he'd ever seen in his lifetime, and he was taken in with her right away, and he never forgot her, because when he went home and told his mother about that girl he met, she says, don't you know, she was the cleverest girl in the whole city. Her father was the big academics there, and everybody used to go to him for advice all the time. And she was his pride and joy because she was the cleverest girl in his family. And she knew Torah backwards and forwards, she knew languages, and he was so taken in when he dashed home to see his mom. He says, Mom, you didn't tell me about this girl. He said, I didn't want to tell you because I didn't think he'd be interested so soon as coming home.
Well, how old was he then?
Well, he was been in the army 8.5 years. It was something like 8.5 years or so, roughly 8.5 years.
Right.
So he was a fully grown man. I should be rehearsed on this, so right, they give it to you right. Maybe I'll come with.
We can do it again, and you can fill in all the gaps.
I like, it's very romantic. But his meet with this girl, and he was so taken, and she was taken with him because my grandpa was a pretty handsome man too. And he made a vow just there and then that he's going to come back and he's going to marry this girl, because and everything he wanted a girl. She was a clever girl, beautiful girl, very intelligent, and very well educated, and eventually that girl became his wife. When they came in, now she had relatives in Massachusetts near Boston. That was it. Her relatives all moved to Massachusetts, and our relatives more or less went to Toronto. But he made a vow he'd see her when he came to Canada. Now when he came here. He looked her up he went to Massachusetts, and he made a vow that they were going to get married, and so eventually they moved to Toronto. He moved to Toronto, and they opened a little store on Elizabeth Street. In fact, 90 was the number of that store was 91 Elizabeth Street, just right near where the new City Hall is located right now. Yeah. And they opened a little grocery store there, for which they spent a year or so before moving further west on Queen Street near Adelaide, near
Spadina.
Spadina, that was it, yeah, Spadina. They were there for a couple of years, and the next move was to Euclid Avenue, at 62 Euclid Avenue, where they settled, where they formed, they established their first home.
Right.
Yeah, it was a grocery store.
And is that where you were born?
No, I was born there. I think I was born there. I'm not sure. I don't remember.
Well, did they take you? Well, I don't expect you to remember.
No.
I don't think I remember well, I know where I was born, but I don't remember. Were you born in a hospital in Toronto or no?
No hospital. No, we were born. In fact, my Aunt Sarah Shulman, she was a midwife. She was, when any children born in the family, she'd always the night before they were born, and she used to make sure they were born healthy and everything else that goes with it. She was really not a professional, no charged for services. It was all in the family anyway. And that's why I was born. My sister Min was born there, and I guess most of my family were born there.
Midwife.
No, that's what Grandpa said. Okay, let's stop for a minute.
Yeah.
Well, do you think you're doing good, Randy?
Well,
we talked about the midwife, who your aunt Sarah, and now Grandma's joined us.
When the children were born, and they had your Aunt Sarah came to help attend for the birth of your sisters.
Yeah, they all came. They all came to mother. We had the grocery store then, and we had quite a few rooms in the house. We had quite a few rooms there, and there was always they always go to one of the bedrooms there, and they give birth to the child. And she always was out there at the night before. She was very. Well, my aunt Sarah was a very kind woman, and she spent the night with the mother and baby to make sure everything's all right before we went back home again next morning.
So so your father had the store, he ran the store, and your mother helped, or your mother?
Oh yeah, she was
mother
there.
They both worked
His
in the
mother
store.
worked all day. I mean, they lived with the business, so you know what that means. When you live behind the store, the minute the door or bell rings, you're out in the store again, running after things and looking after your customers.
Now, something very interesting with my about how I met my wife. When I came a year or two, I was born. I had waited a few years, didn't I?
You were 30 when you met me.
I was 30, exactly 30.
Close to 30 years.
Well, when I was 30 years of age, let's skip a few years.
Okay.
30 years of age, I had a cousin, Harry Savlov, and he had a friend, Benny, let's forget his name, I don't remember it. So he worked in the post office. And we decided to take a trip to the United States.
Miami.
We were going to go to Miami, didn't we? Yeah.
Sure.
To Miami. So I had a little two-seater car with a rumble seat at the back, a little Ford rumble seat. We got in the car one January 15th, and we had a car loaded with gas and oil and lubrication, and off we went to California.
No,
Miami.
I'm sorry, Miami. I'm sorry. We went on the highway. It was the Elizabeth Way. Took a trip along this way, crossed over into
New York,
to Buffalo.
right?
And going to Buffalo, it was a kind of a very snowy day, and it was twilight. And we didn't see the end of the road, so we went right through into a farmyard, and we had to back up and get out of the farmyard before the farmer found his broken fence. And then now we moved on we kept going on the highway, going through Batavia, New York, and we stopped for a rest in. Somewhere in Batavia, stopped there.
Yeah.
And now our car was a two-seater in the front and a rumble seat in the back. See?
And there were 3 of you in the car?
There was 3 of us in the car.
Okay.
Only 3
Yeah.
in the car. And then we carried on. Now the first stop was Batavia, New York, and the next stop was we hold it now. Yeah, no, we crossed over the New York, Pennsylvania border, and the snow started coming very heavy, kept coming heavier and heavier all the time. And as we just at the twilight again, just as we crossed over twilight, we landed in a farmyard. And the whole now, just before that happened, we passed around a big mountain, and there was a big snowslide coming down the mountain. We saw the snowslide coming down, so we sped faster a bit to avoid the snowslide or snowstorm or whatever it was, and it hit us right in the middle of the car and knocked the car over on its side. And we three of us tumbled out of the car then. As we, the driver and the three of us, then we out of the car, and we righted the car again, but she leaked out all of it, so all of the oil and some of the fuel too. But we just had enough to drive to go on a little further, and we landed in the city of what's the city of Pennsylvania called again?
I wouldn't know. I wasn't there.
We I don't know.
A small city?
Harrisburg.
Harrisburg.
Oh, yeah,
Right.
Not Harrisburg. And by this time, because we lost all the water out of the
Radiator?
Right. The cars had to steam up quite a bit. So every time it kept coming, we keep going. Every time we ran out of water, we stopped inside the farmhouse and put some more water back in the radiator. It kept on going. And when we did get to Harrisburg, I should have mentioned we went to a garage where they filled the car with water again, and we carried on.
So it was quite the adventure.
Yeah. Well, no, because very disjointed. I'd like to have a little time to write it up properly and tell real story. Yeah.
Let's start again. Okay.
Yeah. What was our dentist? Remember what's name again? Snyderman. Was our first dentist Snyderman? Was it?
Yeah. Who you're speaking about?
I remember because we were having.
Oh, you want to tell the story about this young girl? That's very lengthy.
We left it. So they want that no.
You shouldn't go into that.
Let's continue down to Florida.
Yeah, don't go into that part about Harry and the girlfriend. That's silly.
So we're in Harrisburg now, are we?
Yeah.
We're in Harrisburg, and we stopped in Harrisburg at the garage where the garage man turned off to both sides of my car, both sides of the radiator, and he filled it with water again. And I saw the way he did it, so I had a wrench with me, and we went on our way there. And as we went further on, every time we ran out of water, we stopped. I get water from a farmer, and I put it back in the radiator, and we carried on that way until we landed in
Miami.
Right in Miami. With a steaming car, steaming all the way, and when we went there, let's see.
Can you stop for a minute, Randy?
Sure, I'll stop. Okay, so Grandma was saying that you picked up a couple of hitchhikers.
Yes, we did. No, as we just before landing in Harrisburg, the two boys stopped us on the highway, and luckily they stopped us because we ran out of water, and we all chased up and down the highway trying to get water for my car, and these boys helped us quite a bit there, and they sat the rumble seat at the back of my car, and we traveled that way right into Miami. We got to Miami. We found we found some rooms. We had to let the boys go because we couldn't support boarders. We only support ourselves. We went to a house and sat up there about renting rooms. And then we went in there and took rooms for the night. And how was it? We drove around the following day. We drove around with a limping car over the city of
Miami.
And there we were looking for the address, and some people were told to look up. So I let Harry get out of the car, near the main part of the city, and Harry and Ben got out of the car, and I went out touring to find this address
some person you were supposed to meet.
But no, I met the family, the mother of a girl who had a boyfriend in Toronto, and I was to stay with his boyfriend to tell him that his future wife would be seeing him very soon. But be very patient, and I'll carry the message back to her mother as well.
Back in Toronto.
In Toronto, and which I did. And I've just got another thing. I'll stop and say again. See, they had made my minds when they first met. They were going to marry each other. And so I put the message back to the back. I carried the message with me, and on the way back, just I got the main part of the town and near the hotels, there was Harry standing there with his boyfriend Ben, and waving at me. And there was two girls standing close to him too there, but both very pretty girls. So I thought this was too good to stop. Too good to stop. So I put my car around. I drove up to my cousin and his friend, and they called me over to meet these girls. They were pretty, and there's one I kind of like a little better than the other one, you know. So I kept my eye on her all the time and said, I wouldn't lose sight of her. And they told me that they lived in Philadelphia, that city Philadelphia, and they were on the holiday here as well. So one led to another, and we promised to meet each other again as soon as possible. When we had located a full room for yes, we had located, didn't we? We had located.
You stayed in the same place, actually.
Oh, you stayed in the same hotel?
Yeah.
But it wasn't the same hotel.
He's not telling you the
boarding house
detail the way it really happened.
Yeah. And the next morning we went looking for our girls, and sure enough, we promised to meet them at a certain spot where they were staying, and they waited for us, and we met them, and we got the four of us got in the car. Well, the girl that I told you, she was very pretty.
Yeah.
I made sure I had her sitting beside me in the car. And her cousin was the other girl. She sat in the back seat, the rubber seat, with Harry. And we drove around a bit there, and we went to they have these places near the water where you can stop and have refreshments. So we stopped to have a...
Look how he's nervous. He's waiting.
You better...
I know. I mean, you missed
Okay, do you want to fill in the details, Grandma?
Well, I would have to go back to when we first met them.
Okay.
When he was coming back in the car, and